So thank you so much again, everyone, and a special, pleasant good morning to everyone who's participated. And those who are participating, those who are learning, growing, enriching from the conversation. And I want to start with something that I said the last time, and maybe I said it the first time as well, is that we're on a journey. We're on a learning journey. And as educators, there are going to be parts of these conversations that are going to be so familiar and easy to us. We have lived and breathed this. We have experienced this. Our years of service, our years of classroom experience, school leadership give us this knowledge. And there's some of us who it's going to bring up some memories as well. And there's some of us who are going to center the learning in a way because you yourself identify with some of these issues and concern. And then there's some of us who we're adding more tools to our toolboxes because as an educator, you have been doing the work and you are just like, wow, there's another idea, there's another tool, there's another opportunity. So I want to emphasize that we are all on a different learning journey through this process because of different ways. And we're jumping into chapter 4. And what I like about chapter 4, I want to talk about how we embrace diversity. So yes, the screen as the big, bold, stop the hate for goodness sake, whatever. But I want to talk about how we embrace diversity, because this is not a series to talk about what's going on outside and inside, but also what we can do to impact change as educators, as caregivers, as leaders, right? And so I love this way we started this conversation. Each educator and student is a different person with a unique ethnicity, race, religion, family structure, and identity. And let me pause here for a minute, because every time we talk about diversity and difference, we seem to rush to race. We seem to think that, it's only about color and race. Our uniqueness is embodied in so many ways. Our family structure. A lot of persons don't think about your family structure and how different your family is from mine. A lot of us, we are so embedded in the nuclear family structure. I think we forget that people exist and family exists outside of those borders and those categories and those, I would say, those fences. I like to use that word because some of those things, they block us from seeing the fullness. And as an educator, I want to pause. I didn't plan to say this, but I want to pause to ask you, how are you really talking about family in your school, in your classroom, family structure? I come from that old school when the only picture inside the classroom of a family was a mom, a dad, a boy, a girl, a cat, a dog, and you all know it, a house with a picket fence. It had a green grass, an apple tree with beautiful red apples. A lot of us came from that picture. A lot of us, we know that picture. The sad thing is that picture is the same single picture in many of our classrooms. And so many of our students, they have already gotten a message from us that you don't belong to a real family. Whether you like it or not, that is the message we are sending when we only position one type of family. So think about how we are positioning concerns and questions and the beauty of diversity in our classrooms. How are we positioning that? What are those conversations? Because I'm going to tell you this. Whether you do it intentionally or not, you are sending messages about family. You are sending messages about identity. You're sending messages about religion and race. You're sending messages, let me jump to that quickly. You're sending messages about how people identify. You're sending messages about social identity. Who is a citizen? Who is not? What makes you a citizen? Are you deserving of being a citizen? We're talking about racial identity, but we're also talking about gender. What is this thing we're talking about, pronoun? What is this about pronoun? Is it about we're centering something new and different in our school? Or are we allowing everybody to be seen and to feel like they are seen and respected and appreciated? So how are we doing that? And as we said at the beginning, School should be a place of love, kindness, celebration, learning about these differences with no place or space for hate. If you look at as a Catholic board, if you look at some of the messaging, it is rooted in love and kindness. Rooted in love and kindness. Rooted in love and kindness. And so sometimes I find it hard or difficult when I have certain conversation in a Catholic school, built on Catholic principles and principles of the Bible and God and love and Jesus and his work. I have a struggle with that. How do we separate all of that when love and kindness is the foundation? And I'll be honest with you, I always believe that I should have had an easier conversation in Catholic boards about equity. I'm going to be very honest. I always have this notion in my heart that when I go to talk about inclusion and equity and kindness and empathy, it shouldn't be a struggle. It shouldn't feel tense. It shouldn't be as brave. I'm going to go there with Catholic boards because so much is built on love and kindness and inclusion and celebration. But I'm going to literally ask you a question. Is it? And you don't need to answer it today, tomorrow, or even next week. Is it? Are your classroom principles built on those things? Is it? I am the one to ask you. I am the one asked to do this series. And I am the one supposed to ask you, is it? Are your classroom principles and positionality and view and lens, are they built on kindness and love? And so when you think about embracing diversity, as educators, it's our responsibility. It is crucial that we cultivate. I love this word. I wish I had an entire session just to talk about cultivate and foster. I wish I had an entire session for us to unpack what it means to cultivate and foster educational, let me cross out the word educational, classroom spaces. Yeah. I want to go to personal. How do we cultivate and foster classroom spaces that actively dismantle racism through raising awareness, upholding standards of equity, and take action? Let us take out the word racism. How do we dismantle hate? How do we dismantle homophobia? How do we dismantle xenophobia? How do we dismantle ageism and colorism? How do we dismantle unkindness and bullying? How do we dismantle those things? Through awareness, standards, and action. And so as we do this work in the text on I think it's page 65, there is a call for us to reflect. There's a call for us to get into a circle and have this moment of reflection. What are the different parts of your identity that make you who you are? And we give our children the opportunity. I'm going to give you a joke. I gave this joke to my class just yesterday. And I really want to share this for the series and for the record. I was talking about my work on being very intentional in ensuring that I get to know my students. And I'm sure many of you as educators, you have the September things that you do where they write stories or, they tell us about, their holidays and all that kind of stuff. And I remember a new student was in my class. I was at a school of many immigrant kids. And this particular new student came to my class and she was from Brazil. Never had a student from Brazil before. I don't know much about Brazil at that time. Never been to Brazil. I'm actually going to Brazil next year. And all that good stuff. And I was just excited. And I want to use the story for you to see that we do have so much to learn. And as educators, it's okay. It is okay for us to say we don't know and make mistakes and learn from them and grow. And as she walked in the class, I was excited. I wanted to let her know that I see her. And I jumped right into my Spanish. Buenos dias, ¿cómo está? And that little girl in grade 3, in the most beautiful way, she said, Mr. Campbell, you have a little English here. She said, I don't speak Spanish. I speak Portuguese. That story may mean a lot to different people. It's a funny story, so I hope you laughed at me and at the story. But I remember how I responded to that student, and I was like, wow. And I apologized, and I said, I'm going to learn some Portuguese, and you're going to help me with that when you have the time. You know, I would have a good laugh about it. And so I used that story to emphasize the importance, I'm going to get to it right now, the importance of cultural competence, the importance of us growing in cultural competence. I hope one of these days when we get to talk again, I'm going to talk some more about cultural competence and what it means to learn about others. And so we can have less biases. We have less assumptions. We have way less stereotypes, and we have absolutely less fears. Because a lot of us, we fear the things we do not know. We do not understand. We are confused about. And so it's a matter of fear. A lot of us, we're engaging in fear. What does that look like? Ask yourself, what does that look like? I tell you another quick story that you're gonna maybe love again. Another funny story. I went in 2000, I went on an exchange teacher program in America, in Atlanta to be exact. And I want to give you context. I am from Jamaica. I'm living in the Bahamas at that time. I'm a Black man. I'm going this teacher exchange program, and they placed me in a school way outside of the city of Atlanta, and near to the outskirts. And that school, a lot of Black kids, mostly Black children. And you have to understand, some of these children, or most of these children, because of the socioeconomic background, have never traveled out of their community, never been anywhere. And so what they know about a Black person from Jamaica is going to be built on their storybooks, some news, something on the TV and the media. That's why media is so important. That's why media literacy is so valuable. Don't skip it, teachers. Media literacy is so valuable. And, you know, whatever stories, and they asked me amazing question because they were excited to get to know their new teacher from Jamaica. And they asked me, you know, if I live in a tree house. And they asked me if I swim every day and catch my own fish to cook for my dinner. You know, they asked me if there are cars in Jamaica, because they always see, you know, a Rasta man on a beach. That's Jamaica, a Rasta man on a beach, right? You know, right? And, you know, another one is say, you know, Mr. Campbell, you don't have any dreadlocks, right? And then, of course, another one who is smart and know a little bit more and maybe exposed to certain music, say to me, do you know Bob Marley? It's dead long time, right? But I'm supposed to know Bob Marley because that's what they know. And of course, a little one jumped in. You know, I always love that little brave one. And he says, you know, do you smoke weed? Amazing children. Amazing class. Beautiful children. But they're wrapped up in stereotypes. They're wrapped up in what they know about Jamaica. And it's only about a beach. They see a Rasta man. They see weed. They were surprised that I had a car, live in a beautiful home. Reggae music was not my favorite music. Jamaican food is actually not my favorite food. Asian food is my favorite food. I like Thai. I love Vietnamese. I love a pho. And so imagine a group of students acting on those kind of assumptions. If you may not believe it, they may even think less of me because I don't know what a real house should be. You see what I'm saying? So I want you to realize that embracing diversity is important, that school should be that place where our students feel seen, loved. If I was writing this book over, I would write, school should be a place that our students feel seen, feel cared for, feel included, feel a sense of belonging, feeling like that you are a person. I love this activity. It's an activity in the book that I love. And I love, you know, many of you have done it before, so it's not so new. But I want you to see the things that the word bubbles activity, the word cloud activity that came up in our students. I want you to see their identity. What is important? Canadian, being Jewish, swimming, sports, art. This person likes soccer, Korean food. This person is a runner. I want you to see that. Get to know our students. You know, I remember in the book on page 71, there's a story. And this person was sharing on page 71. And this person says, student belonging at school is not a given. Student belonging in our school, it is not a given. Remember that word? Let me go back to that word. I have to go back to that word. Cultivate and foster. I want everybody to write that down. And I want the learning coaches and the persons who are working with you through this process. I want us to really think about those two words. And maybe if you follow me on social media or read any of my other books, you'll realize how much I use the word cultivate and foster a lot. If you want, I'll share with you a book chapter I just wrote. I could send your team members and leaders a copy about how, as educational leaders, this was really for the principals and the vice principals and the superintendents, how we foster a culture and a climate of belonging, how we foster that. So when you walk into a school, let me tell you what I mean. When you walk into a school and you walk into a classroom and you look around and you go, wow, I just feel a sense of belonging here. It is not about the paint on the wall. It is never about the paint on the wall. It is never about some artifact they hang up somewhere. It's about the people. It's about the care. It's about the way you are seen. It's about the way you're given an opportunity to feel welcome. It's the kindness we have shown to each other. It's the empathy. It's the belonging. It's the way we say without saying it, I see you. And you know, there's a thing on social media, or, you know, if I don't have your social media account, they would say you love me without words. Or say you like this without word, or say you're a teacher. If I ask you to say you're a teacher without words, what would you do? What are the images you would show? Say you're a teacher without word. Say you're a principal, a vice principal, a superintendent without words. What would that look like if you should snap some pictures and show me without words? You would see me, first of all, 6'4" in one of those pictures, stooping down, maybe kneeling on one knee, talking to a kindergarten child, a grade 1 child who may be crying or is upset or is angry about something. You would see me physically low on my height. I love that image of myself. You'll see me outside on the playground, and I am laughing my head throw back in such a way. My students used to me laughing with a belly full of laugh, with my head tilted in a certain way that says an authentic joy. And they are around me either sliding or playing. You would see me so close with my hands, physically having my hands like this because I'm going in on a point. I want you to realize that we foster belonging is important. And so I want to ask you a magic question. And some of you may have seen me online, may have seen this before. A magic question. What does belonging look like? And if you had to fill in the space at the top, and though it has a lot of the LGBTQ colors, this is not about LGBTQ, as a matter of fact, or towards LGBTQIA+, but it's also about that as well. But if you had to fill in belonging in your classroom, you draw one of this, no colors, just draw one. And you put, let's think about that activity. Let's do that activity. Draw yourself that cone, the triangle. Base, you know, thinking about, and many of you know about Maslow's needs of hierarchy, but let's kind of change it up and put some lines there. And ask yourself if belonging was the foundation or is the foundation of my teaching, my pedagogy, my practice, my classroom, then what are the other things that are possible? Because if you remember Maslow, at the top there is self-actualization. Building on basic needs and going up to Maslow need hierarchy. And it's kind of telling us that people are struggling to self-actualize because their basic needs are never met. They have no sense of belonging. So think about if belonging was the foundation. What are the possibilities? Let me say this so you understand where I'm going with this. Do you know the number of students in our school that struggle? And they